When you're quoting from a newspaper or magazine article, you need to quote and cite accurately. But there's nothing particularly special about this type of quoting. It should be treated just like prose narration. The citation on the works cited page has a bit more information though. So if I'm quoting from a newspaper, I encase my quote in quotation marks, of course. My parenthetical reference would include only the author's last name, and so it would look like this. The first major golf tournament held in Wisconsin happened in 1923 when Gene Sarazen gave a, and here's my quote, jolt of confidence, and that was tonic for the tournament and the times. There you go. Okay, so my quote ends here, and then I'm going to, in my parenthetical reference, include the author's name. This is Bill Glauber. This is from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. But the only thing I need to include in parentheses is the author's name. Pretty simple, right? Now let's look at how the entry on the Works Cited page would look. On my Works Cited page, I use all the usual suspects. First of all, I have the author's last name and then the author's first name followed by a period. When you're quoting from a newspaper or magazine article, you need to quote and cite accurately. But there's nothing particularly special about this type of quoting. It should be treated just like prose narration. The citation on the Works Cited page has a bit more information though. So if I'm quoting from a newspaper, I encase my quote in quotation marks, of course. My parenthetical reference would include only the author's last name, and so it would look like this. The first major golf tournament held in Wisconsin happened in 1923 when Gene Sarazen gave a, and here's my quote, jolt of confidence, and that was tonic for the tournament and the times. There you go. Okay, so my quote ends here, and then I'm going to, in my parenthetical reference, include the author's name. This is Bill Glauber. This is from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. But the only thing I need to include in parentheses is the author's name. Pretty simple, right? Now let's look at how the entry on the Works Cited page would look. On my Works Cited page, I use all the usual suspects. First of all, I have the author's last name and then the author's first name followed by a period. The second item in my entry is the title of the article in quotation marks with a period inside the quotation marks. Next, in italics, I include the title of the publication with no punctuation after it, followed by the day, the month, and the year. Now, the month is going to be abbreviated. If there is an addition to the paper known, you would follow the year with a comma, and then you would include the addition. It would say something like National, N-A-T-L, Ed, so for National Edition, Final Ed for Final Edition, Special Ed for Special Edition, etc. There are a number of different editions that newspapers will use. Sometimes there is no edition indicated. If there is one, it'd be in the upper right-hand corner of the paper, as clear as day. So if there is an edition, it would be year, comma, edition, colon. If there is no edition known, it would simply be year, colon. Next, you would include the section and the page numbers. Different sections of newspapers are labeled A, B, C, D, etc. Typically, your front page, your main headline news is section A. After the colon, you indicate the page number of the article by including the section and the page. So you'd have something like A9, B13, etc. If the article goes more than one page, you simply list the first page with a plus sign. And finally, you would indicate the medium of publication. So let's see how our article would look on our list of works cited. We have the author's last name, Glauber, and his first name is Bill, and then we end that with a period. The title of the article was Swinging Through History. And then I'm going to put a period inside and end quotation marks. And then it came from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Excuse me. Can't spell Sentinel today apparently. And then a period. And then this was from, whoops, and I do not have a, no punctuation after that. And then it would say 11 August 2015. And there was an edition listed. It said final edition. So we do final ed, period, and then here's that colon. And that was in the main section, so section A, and it was on page 1, and it did extend onto the interior of the newspaper, and so I would use the plus symbol with a period. And then I have to indicate the medium, and it was print. So that's how the citation would look on my list of works cited, except that, of course, it has to be a hanging indent. So, and we talk about this in the video about works cited pages. Okay, so always have a hanging indent. Okay, so now let's get out of here. Let's talk about magazine articles. Okay, let's say everything is done the same as any other quote. So you have the quotation marks around the selection. But in this case, on the citation, you include the author's last name and the page numbers on which you found the quote. That makes sense. Pretty standard procedure here. So let's say I'm writing a history paper about Nero, and I find a great article in my favorite magazine, Archaeology. I'd begin with a good lead-in sentence, and then I would quote. So, Nero's reputation suffered mightily at the hands of his successors. And then again, through the magic of word processing, there's my quote. They attempted to obliterate not only the emperor's memory, but also all traces of the Domus Aurea, and to return to public use land he had seized for his private projects. So there's the end of my quote. And then I need, of course, my in-text citation with the author's last name, and it's Gorgone or Gorgoni, not sure how to pronounce it, space, and then the page number. It's page 39 of the greatest magazine ever, Archaeology. And then we end with a period. So, pretty simple. This is pretty standard procedure. So the works cited entry, the works cited entry is where things get a little bit, you need to be a little bit more careful. So here's what you need to include. We always begin with the author's last name and then the first name, followed by a period. We have the title of the article in quotation marks with a period inside the quotes. Then we have the publication title in italics with no punctuation, followed by the date of publication or the month of publication with a colon after it. Next, we have the page numbers followed by a period, and finally the medium of publication. So if we're quoting from a magazine, we need to figure out how often it is published. For a magazine that is published, keep doing that, every month, or excuse me, every week or 2 weeks, such as Time and Newsweek, we give the complete date with the day, the abbreviated month, and the year, followed by a colon, the inclusive page numbers, and the medium of publication. So let's say I found an article in Newsweek, and I'm just going to make up the data here. Our works cited entry would look like this. So last name, let me move this down a little bit for you. There we go. So last name, comma, first name, followed by a period. Then in quotes, the title of the article with the period inside the quotes. Then the title of the publication, Newsweek. And then after that we have the date of publication. So let's say it was published on the 8th of August, 2015, with a colon, and it was pages 12 to 16, for example, and then it was a print publication. So that's exactly how that would look, except that you have to do the hanging indent again. So there you go. Now, if we're quoting from a magazine that's published every month or two, such as Archaeology, you give the month or the months and the year only. You omit the date because there is none listed. So our works cited entry for the above quote would look like this. Gorgone or Gorgoni, Federico, Gorgioni, who knows. Then we have the title, Golden House of an Emperor. The title of the publication, and then it was the September-October issue of 2015, colon, and that was pages 37 to 43, and then it was in print. And so that is what the works cited entry would look like for these, for a weekly or a bi-weekly publication, and then one that is published monthly or bi-monthly.